Pretty good size eggs after a long winter of getting none. Kyle. So I tried to sit in the barn and do a roundup of the video that the podcast I'm putting out for you this weekend. I filmed it, the second week of April, maybe the third. Anyway, a little while ago, and then I just got it put together. Sorry about the gusts of wind occasionally. So I just got it put together, and I thought I would give you a little rundown of it before we get started with it. You're going to see some lambs, and you're going to see the ewes. We're going to talk about the fleece and fiber a little bit, and that's pretty much it. You'll see our quarantine sign that we actually put up before we went into quarantine. I hope you all are doing okay with everything that's going on. What I had started to say in another podcast, and I don't mean this to sound flip or nonchalant, because it really isn't. I don't mean it to sound smug either. But because I live with someone who is disabled and housebound and has lots of health issues, because we have a farm to take care of, we pretty much shelter here in place anyway, if that makes sense. We stock up so that we don't have to make many runs to the store. We try to stay stocked up on the healthcare items. And with farming, life goes on. Farming goes on. It doesn't change that much now. If I were a big farmer and I had large equipment and I had contracts to fill, that would be a different story. Where it is affecting us a little bit will probably be in lamb sales and in wool sales. And I'll talk about wool sales here in just a minute. But anyway, so it probably didn't hit us as hard as it has a lot of others. It hit our family hard because I did put us into quarantine, no visitors, just phone calls. But we were okay with it. It did mean that we have a visiting physician and a visiting nurse, and they couldn't come, but we could be in contact with them by phone. And the hard part about it, I guess, too, is that before the quarantine started, a couple of weeks before that, Bill, my husband, started to have some issues. Partly he's 77 years old this year, along with all the other underlying issues, but something was going on with him. And we were starting to do some new tests and look at some different things when all of this started. And so that put a halt to it. The tests that we had done, things like on the heart, some ultrasounds and some different things, came back negative, but something was definitely off with him. And it was really kind of a scary time. It was just a scary time. I didn't know what was going on. But through all of that and through all of the extra work, and thank goodness for our kids who are close by. But anyway, I was glad that he was at home. If he'd have been at a care facility or a hospital, we wouldn't have been able to go and see him, and he probably would have been exposed to this virus. So I'm grateful for that part of it. And he's starting to come around. Every time he has some of these episodes, it takes a little more out of him, but he's coming around, getting a little more back to normal. So that's good. So there was that little bit of and I guess really it was okay to be quarantined and to be at home, because that was where I wanted to be anyway. So there was that. Here in Michigan, we're going to be on lockdown for a little bit longer, and I do want to say that I respect our governor. I appreciate everything that she's done, and I support her. Not always a popular opinion here these days, but I do. I like what she's done, I like what she's doing, and we will certainly be abiding by her guidelines. So anyway, that was that. Now in the video you heard me talking about when Marjorie was due to lamb, when she was going to lamb. And boy, the more I look at her, the more I wonder if she's even bred. If she is, I think she's farther out than I first expected. I thought she could maybe be due this weekend, but no, definitely not. So not a productive lambing year for us this year, and that hits the pocketbook. The other thing is the fleeces. We did manage to get them sheared. The sheep were coated mostly, so they're pretty clean. But as far as fleece sales go, now I only had 13 sheep this year. We lost one fleece, so a dozen fleeces. One is weak, one of the fin cross from last year. The other two are really dirty. I'm going to think about what I want to do with them. So that's what, 9 fleeces that we're going to have available. 5 of them are already spoken for. And so if you're interested in fleece, maybe get a hold of me if you haven't already. But I'm not going to ship any fleeces until after the quarantine is lifted here in Michigan. And I'm not even going to put them out there for sale, like list them with the photos and stuff, because I'm not going to be getting around to ship them. Probably till middle of May, maybe even the end of May. So I did want to say that too. So anyway, I'll quit rambling here. I think I covered everything else I wanted to say. And you can watch the video with the sheep and with the wool. And hopefully you enjoy it. And hopefully you're all doing well. Talk to you soon. Kyle says good night. This is Marjorie, Hannah's daughter. And we're still waiting on her to have her lambs. Hello from the middle of the Mitten, Michigan's Lower Peninsula. My name is Carrie, and I'm coming to you from Serenity Farms, our small sheep farm in the middle of the Mitten. I'm known as My Wool Mitten on Instagram and Ravelry, and here on YouTube, our podcast is My Wool Mitten. I hope you guys are going to be able to hear me over the sheep. They should be settling down and just having their supper, but you just don't know. And I'm trying to get this angle so that you aren't just looking at me and my crooked glasses, but you'll see the sheep. The lambs have been playing there on that bale, but they've been out all day, and so they're ready to lay down and go to sleep. And I'll try to turn around after bed and get you a picture of the yearlings. So anyway, how has everyone been? It's been a long while. I can't even begin to remember when the last time I recorded was, and I think I'm to look up here in this corner. So if I end up looking off camera this whole time, you guys are just going to have to forgive me, I guess. This is a little bit different. I guess we're going to call this bale talk because I'm sitting on a bale of straw, not on a bucket. Although the camera is sitting on a bucket. Let's hope it doesn't take off and fall. Can you see some of the lambs over here? I was going to wait and record this when we were finished lambing, but we've got one holdout, and that is Marjorie. And she looks like she could be 5 days, maybe a week off. And so I had some time tonight, and so I thought I'd sit down here for a minute. I'm rusty, I'm out of practice. Wasn't even sure I was going to do this, but I don't know, I felt like checking in. And yes, I am wearing lipstick in the barn, because if I didn't, my face looks like it's just all one color. So I hope it doesn't look too strange. Let's see, I said my name, I'm Carrie. I said where I'm at, and the little white lamb that you see there is one of the Finn Corriedale crosses. We only have 2 white lambs so far, and those are from Ninja, the white Finn sheep. Marjorie will most likely have white lambs. It didn't start out to be a good lambing year. Don't know how much I want to talk about that right now. I know some of you are still in the middle of lambing. Some of you are getting ready to lamb. And no sense telling sad stories about what can go wrong. Because honestly, guys, 9 times out of 10, nothing goes wrong. Been doing this for a lot of years. And a lot of years with no problems. But this year was not a good start. We've had a good middle, and let's hope we end on a good note. So, what else is new? I really don't have any knitting to show you. I was going along great guns on a sweater that I was knitting that I really loved. Part of the Fable Knitwear Magical Places knit along, and I was knitting the Ollivanders turtleneck in New Teden yarn. And I finished the body, the turtleneck and the body, and I've got half of the sleeves done. I've been wearing it around the house a little bit to decide, as I often do when I make sweaters, how long do I want the sleeves, and whether I need to rip the bottom out or not. I'm not very good at ribbing. My ribbing is always loose and sloppy, but I thought the ribbing really was part of this pattern, made part of it, made it what it was. Sorry if I'm bumping the bucket here. And so I did it, and I like the way it looks on the sweater. I don't necessarily like the way it looks on me, so I'm going to see. I may take that ribbing out and do something different on the bottom. I'll keep the turtleneck in the ribbing, but we'll see. And then I was starting a test knit for a pair of mitts for a knitwear designer here in Michigan, and I'm working on one of the ewes, helping her get lambs delivered. I wrenched my shoulder, and knitting really was irritating it, just having to hold my arm in that certain way. So I haven't knit in probably, I don't think I've knit since the end of March, honestly. Maybe the first week of April. I just picked that up and worked a little bit today, and we'll see how it does. Well, so then I thought, well, this is a good time to pick up spinning again and do some more spinning. And my drive band broke. Oh, darn it. Sorry about that. I'm going to pause just for a minute. Okay, we're going to start over again. And I don't even remember what I was talking about. Knitting, I think. Anyway, so yeah. Oh, knitting and then spinning. I think I told you I was taking a little break from knitting and decided to do some spinning, and then the drive band on my wheel broke. And I always keep a spare drive band for my wheels, but that's the wonderful thing about both Ashfords and Louettes. Parts don't need replacing for a very long time. But so anyway, when I opened the package to get the new drive band out, I've probably had it 10, 12 years, and it was brittle, and it broke. So had to get with the woolery, and another one is on its way. And I could have done a string or, baker's twine or something, but it wasn't that big of a deal. This is Weezer behind me. And you can't see her, she's off camera, but Marjorie's over here. But Weezer's sniffing my hair. Can you see her ears? Weez, what do you think, honey? What do you think? Oh my gosh, you guys. We're never going to get this recorded. Anyways, I was telling you, Weezer's standing here behind me chewing on my hair. She had her first set of lambs this year, a set of twins, and she did a marvelous job. After what I told you was a bad beginning to lambing, it was nice to come to the barn and find a first-time mama with a healthy set of twins up and nursing and completely dried off with no trouble. What else? We are currently without a ram. I did send the gray ram Petoskey off. I don't know, I recorded an episode of the podcast for you guys, and then I didn't publish it because I thought there was a lot of negativity in it, and also not anything intentional in talking about the farm and what we were doing in the current state of affairs. But it just, when I watched it back, it came off to me sounding like I was being flip or callous about it, and so I just didn't post it. So I talked about some things on there, and so I'm trying to remember, have I told you this or not? But he had turned mean to the ewes. He was 3 years old. Yeah, 3, I think. Anyway, going on 3 years old. He ran with the ewes all of last year, all during breeding season, all during lambing season with no trouble. This year, and a ram will do that sometime in my experience, he might get to pushing the ewes around a little bit, but he had turned just plain nasty, like they were another ram. And these ewes were all bred to him. And, he started getting pushy with them, and then I actually came out and he was knocking into them, bamming into them, and they're pretty far along in their pregnancy at this point when I saw that. And then the final straw was when he chased down Hannah, who was one of our oldest ewes, and literally knocked her down the hill, and then went after her when she was on the ground. And so I pulled him out, of course, pulled him out of the pasture with the ewes, put him in a pen by himself to wait for whatever his fate was going to be. And it, I'm sure, is what caused us some problems. And I'll just tell you briefly. Our first ewe lambed about 2 weeks early, at least 2 weeks early, from what my figuring was, and that was Penny, and it was her first lambing, and she's had a set of twins, a ewe and a ram lamb, who were about the size of my barn cat. They were alive, but barely. The ewe lamb was just gasping for air. The ram lamb was alive, and despite tube feeding him, he didn't make it. She did everything right. They were clean. She had them. They were cleaned off. She was trying to help them up, trying to help them to nurse, but that didn't last. So they had come premature. And I thought, is that from him knocking her around? Because she was one of the ewes he had gone after. So 2 weeks later, we were set to shear on a Friday, and I came to the barn and found my dear Hannah, who you guys have seen on these videos often, was down, 10 years old. In all of her life, she's given me a set of twins with no trouble. And I could see she had been at it for a while, trying to lamb. And so I tried to help her, reached inside and found a mess. And she wasn't ready to lamb. She didn't have a bag. She hadn't made milk. She wasn't dilated. She wasn't showing very much. And so we went for that full day trying to help her deliver those lambs. My daughter came to help me. Bill walked me through as best he could. Because I've helped deliver lambs before, but when I reached in there, I really felt a mess. And it finally, especially when I started to see what was on my arm when I pulled it out, I thought there were probably dead lambs. and there were. And she didn't survive, and neither did the lambs. And so that's been a grief for a while. One of our oldest ewes, a matriarch of the flock. And if I were looking at it strictly from a financial standpoint, we didn't get her fleece. We didn't get at least 2 good lambs, and we lost a good ewe. And the shearer was going to be here in the next morning. So anyway, and I have to think, I told you, she was one that I saw that ram really take after. And they probably died maybe sometime after that. Now, maybe not. Maybe that's coincidence. But we rarely have lambing trouble here. And so, hi, sweetie. We'll get your picture in a minute. So anyway, and I'm not the only one grieving about that. I have 2 of her daughters here, Penny and Marjorie, and Hilda, who was born the same year as Hannah. She missed her friend. She'd go to the place where Hannah lay. They usually laid together. They usually lambed very close time together. And Hilda lambed 4 days later with a nice, good, strong set of twin ram lambs. So anyway, so the sheep grieved too. They missed she was kind of the leader of this group of ewes. And so anyway, so that's the sad part. And then we had 4 ewes lamb in a matter of 3 days, all with healthy sets of twins, and all with no trouble, cleaned and up and nursing and going. So let's hope that's what happens for Marjorie too. I wish I could. Maybe I can. Excuse me swinging the camera. She was just up here chewing on my hair, but let me see if I can. There she is. She's getting close. She doesn't look very much like her mother. Hannah was such a pretty ewe. Marjorie is a great big old ewe. She's from a registered Corriedale ram. And not quite as pretty face, but beautiful body, beautiful conformation, and pretty good fleece, and nice. She's always had nice lambs. So anyway, now I've rambled on. Didn't mean to go off into that sad place with you guys. But just know that normally things all work out for the best with no trouble. But so Pete is gone. That was my gray Corriedale ram. He's gone. And I wanted to talk a little bit about rams. I think I might have mentioned after I can't remember how many ewes I bred him to last year, but he didn't really prove himself to me last year. This year he was bred to everything, and we have more of a scattered variety of ewes now. And so I had said to my husband, we'll see what he has. And we have a nice bunch of lambs, but as I've watched them, I kept thinking, I can't quite put my finger on it. They're thrifty. They have that old Burley Corriedale hardiness, where they're up and they're looking to nurse. And there's Penny. That's Marjorie's sister, Hannah's other daughter. And she has Hannah's sweet face, but she's a bit of a ditz. Anyway, about Pete, about the ram. And it came to me finally, and I said to my husband, Pete, the ram, didn't put a stamp on any of the lambs. Now, in our case, that's not a bad thing because we have good ewes. So it didn't hurt any with the lambs. They all have taken after their mothers. And last year, when I bred him to Sushi, the other Finn sheep. Now, Sushi was a totally different conformation and type than Ninja. Ninja's nice and short and blocky. Sushi was taller, longer, leaner, and her lambs looked just like her. But anyway, he just didn't put a stamp on him. So he didn't hurt us because we have good ewes, but we didn't have any improvement either. I had hinted to you in an earlier episode that I may have some news about a ram. Well, with all of this virus and things being what they are, I hope that that's still going to happen, but it hasn't happened yet. And as soon as it does, we'll have a little reveal here. on the podcast and show you our new ram and what we're hoping to do going forward, because I'm really excited about it if it all works out. So anyway, I don't even remember what all I've talked about here because I was so scattered, and it's probably getting long enough. I know it's going to be hard to get it uploaded. This is not really going to be edited much. I'll put in some other footage of the lambs, hopefully. Maybe I'll get some pictures of the yearlings. I might try to do some video of fleece skirting again. I'm going to start that tomorrow. Our temperatures just bottomed out, and the wind has been blowing like crazy, and so I haven't been down in the barn doing very much. But tomorrow's supposed to be a little warmer, and my stepdaughter's coming to sit with her dad, so I'll have a chance to come to the barn and maybe skirt some fleece and maybe talk with you guys while I do. So we might do that tomorrow. In the meantime, happy lambing to everyone who's still lambing, and happy shearing to everyone who's shearing, knitting and spinning to those of you who do that. And I hope you're doing well and taking care of yourselves and your families. I hope you've enjoyed this time down in the barn, and I hope it won't be so long before I see you again. So you guys take care. See you soon. Let's see. Can you see over there on the bale? Right there. There's Ninja. She has a coat on because she was cold. There's Hilda with a coat on, but there's Ninja's lambs, a ram and a ewe. So, talk to you soon. Now, our new shearer has pretty much got all the parts with manure and the matting from their chest and belly away from the fleece, which is nice to not have to pick through that. Like, I didn't find a single bit of poo on this fleece. I'm going to try to shake this without shaking the camera right loose, and you'll probably see some second cuts go flying. Here is her neck, and I know that partly because of the cutout, but also, let's see if I hold this up here. Can you see all the chaff in there? That was all right around her neck. That can end up being in the hay feeder. That's a lot of second cuts. Probably really wiggling you guys around. She is quite dirty compared to her sister. Neither one of them had coats, but her sister is quite a bit more clean than she is. She's got a lot of BM. Some weak spots across the back here. So this fleece is going to take a closer look before I decide if I want to sell it. It's beautiful. The other one is a finer crimp, but a little bit more character in this one. Let's see. Now this is going to be Hilda's fleece. And I'm sorry about the noise from the sheep. Hopefully you can hear me. There's also a chicken laying an egg. But the last two fleeces that I did were the crossbloods, the Corriedale Finns, and now I'm going to do a perennial favorite, who is Hilda, and let you see the difference there. Starting out, she weighed 10 pounds, at least. Now, while the last fleece didn't have any manure pieces, it looks like this one does. And from experience, I'm going to say probably all of Hilda's fleece won't fit on this table very well. I may have to roll some up and work in bits at a time. I never ever get tired of seeing Hilda's fleece. She's 10 years old now. And this one is probably going to have to lay out for a little bit. It even got a little bit twisted in the pickup, but it's such a big fleece, and when you're trying to move it quickly, that can happen. That's probably her neck. Even from there, maybe you can see the variety of colors. And Hilda was coated, but these old Burley Corriedales have so much lanolin, it makes the tips look like they're dirty. We have to always be really careful about felting there. And I think I mentioned 10 pounds at the start. A little bit shorter this year. But at 10 years old, I'll give her that. I love finding these little spots in her fleece. I'll show you. Let's see here. If it'll focus. There, but it's not really showing. Yeah, there you can see when it's the silver and then you get these little streaks of darker gray. I love those. Here's another example of it. And then she does have some darker areas. She's not all silver. But here's the money. Here's the money fleece. No, that'll pick up really well. Can you see that crimp in color? Sorry about that. Had a phone call. But this will be a good place to stop. This is going to need to lay out and dry a little bit before we go any further. And then we'll come back and do some more. Because when you're a fin shape, you have to do things differently than everybody else. Isn't that right, Marjorie?